Welcome everyone to another episode of Price Targets with your host Bitcoin Jack. It's Sunday. It's been a week of just up. We've been seeing Bitcoin move up throughout the weekend, and throughout the week, everything just seems to be very strong. I want to have your attention first for ECOS. They're a new regulatory compliant exchange. ECOS is offering spot, offering futures, fiat on ramps, off ramps. So they're an interesting alternative to other exchanges. So give them the courtesy to check them out. Thank you, ECOS, for sponsoring this content. Let's talk about Bitcoin. We talked about in episode 21, I think, so about a week ago, that Bitcoin is in this very vicious state where it's approaching its final extensions in this entire move from 4K, and it's logical for it to keep accelerating. So if we look at the angle here, trend angle, example, just something like this, that kind of was the trend then. 43 degrees on this scale, and then right now it's 47, so that's steeper, and it just seems to be moving off it and going up. There's a few things I want to note, and we talked about in episode 21 how this is just going to keep moving, and obviously it's not going to keep moving in a straight line. There's going to be pullbacks, and it's for us to figure out at what points do we kind of scale out of some risk, take profits on margin longs, for example, if you trade futures, or if you trade spot. Personally, if I trade spot, there's going to be points where I take a little bit of a hedge on it, but generally holding is probably the smart move. And there's going to be pullbacks, but I don't think that any pullback that happens from here is going to be the top yet. I think that Bitcoin in reality has, this resistance coming up at $61,250, and next big resistance is going to be around $89,000. But I wouldn't be surprised to see it go much higher, but not in a straight line, like I said. So important resistance at $61,250, which is the double of this range. And then the other thing, as price has doubled, let's see, yeah, that's 100% move, so that's a 2x. So this technically, current price right here is a significant resistance too. So we broke out last week above 50k, continuation here, epic move. And I wouldn't be surprised to see this continuing to at least $61,250. But I mean, there could be pullbacks before we reach it, and it's maybe cool to have a little look at why or where this could be happening. So let's dive into, I don't know, let's have a look at the 4 hour. 4 hour just had a pretty solid sell-off. Yesterday, I kind of was worried that would be going deeper, but we fully retraced it. I got out of my leverage positions at 54.7, and I'm slowly accumulating a tiny hedge in anticipation of buying a little bit of a dip. So I don't know if that's a smart move here because there's a lot of momentum, but I'm gonna be risking slightly less, as I think the risk to reward becomes better to downside. But I don't want to short Bitcoin. That's just something that's too risky with this momentum. This momentum can easily pull another 10% day tomorrow, or tomorrow it could come down. So what are we looking at? This is the the 2x from the January bottom resistance, and price is tagging it, hugging it. Kind of a little bit of, let's see, sort of a swing failure here, But if we manage to break above this and this next move doesn't become a deviation, I think we're kind of good for continuation, at least to 61,250. And then there's this other level. I don't know how easily I can draw it, but it's 69 and 73. 73 is just this number that I don't know. That's kind of an analysis that I don't want to dive into in these videos. It's going to take too much time. But 73 is, I believe, a key level that we could see a sell-off from, and 69 as well. I don't know. Like, if we manage to break out and not see a deviation, I think it just continues up. I would start to get worried if we see the deviation here, go back below it, and I'd hedge some as it does, and it's possible for it then to just, you know, pop up higher again, just as it did right here. It's not, you know, at this point you gotta just ride the momentum and take profit on the way up and be ready in case there's going to be a sell-off. So where does this sell-off, once it, you know, if it were to occur from here, a 10, 15, 20% sell-off, which are, you know, they're pretty common on Bitcoin. I'd say that, well, let's first measure the high here. So a 10% sell-off, you know, just doesn't make you lose 50k. 52k would be a 10% sell-off. So obviously 10% is a level where buyers will step in, and if sellers are too strong, it will push through. But there's a lot of liquidity left down here. So this is this area right here, which is just around 50,000, just above it. That's some kind of like gap left behind. Doesn't mean that we trade towards it, but if price goes there, it's a level where I'd be interested in getting exposure to the upside. And if I were to have any shorts, that's a place where I'd be looking to 100% close it, to anticipation for the next move. And obviously, we talked about this kind of rising wedge structure that we expected to break to the upside. There's 2 wicks right here that could be ran, in my opinion, without turning this move into a bearish move. If we get below here, that would make me kind of hesitant and think that price could actually come back down all the way to retest 42k. And it's worth just measuring how far of a sell-off that is by now. Yeah, so that's almost 30, almost 30%. At some point, Bitcoin is going to correct that much again. I'm not really sure if it's going to happen anytime soon. As price speeds up, obviously everything is going to be happening relatively soon, because price moves are going to take less days, and everything is going to get more volatile. What's this from 60? So that's a full 30% were a price sell-off to occur from there. But obviously, I think you have to bid around 50. I think bidding 50, slightly below 50, slightly above 50 is just a good place. And if you get lucky, you get filled. If not, no worries. And just right spot position. And other than that, it's really, can't really say that much about it. There's going to be futures expiring at the end of this week on Friday. So that's going to be, futures, options. So that's going to give some volatility. That's going to be interesting. There's quite a few very high strikes. So, who knows, that price is going to push for those. That would be incredible. And that's it. Let's jump into ETH real quick. we talked about ETH. We were not interested in ETH, and still think I'm not interested in. There's been, if we go through the 3-day, we talked about how this was pretty sizey deviation on these highs right there, and I'm not interested in trading ETH unless we kind of manage to get above 0.04 again, and I think there's interesting. No, I'm just let it sell off, especially as long as Bitcoin is going to be bullish and making like 5% a day. Don't want to be in ETH. Just doesn't make sense. I wouldn't be surprised if it comes back down all the way here. I'm not going to short it because it can move up out of nowhere. If Bitcoin starts to correct or something, maybe ETH is just going to have a short squeeze and just pop really hard. So just in this market, doesn't make sense to short anything, but just doesn't make sense to hold any ETH. And then LTC, same story. I had a little position, sold it. It's now coming back down here again. I don't know, this thing just doesn't want to start a trend, and maybe eventually it's going to trend, but it's not worth, getting in this and then waiting for it to happen if Bitcoin is moving. So you can make money on Bitcoin right now. You can make money on other alts. There's quite a few alts that popped, like BNB. And I think we talked about BNB as well last video. I don't know. I don't know how to summarize this. Like, Bitcoin, incredibly strong, moving up. No reason to think it's gonna stop doing that for now. The only concern I have, which is a legitimate concern, which might be proven wrong tomorrow, is that the volume hasn't been picking up at all. Like, it's been going down, so that kind of suggests that at some point this move is gonna see quite a bit of a retrace, just to test whether the demand is really here. Because you see how the volume here is, it's not as high as this one and not as high as this one, and arguably it was still decent volume, because it's as high as the volume here, but then it just dropped off again. So here you had multiple days of strong volume, which then suddenly started to sell off, and so what you want to see is kind of this build up happening now. And otherwise, if this just keeps grinding down, I think the next move is going to be a sharp pullback down on high volume. And if that manages to hold, that kind of confirms the trend. We have a retest and then continuation up to 70, 80, 90K. And I think this is all going to last at least until mid of March, with the occasional pullback, which could be 20-30%. What else to say? It's kind of like, just ride it, make sure you protect yourself, and make sure that if this thing starts to sell off, it doesn't hurt your portfolio too much. I think that's it. Happy Sunday, and see you on Wednesday. Cheers.